All right, can everyone see my screen okay? I apologize ahead of time. I'm in a cafe, so if my sound is a little low, Nicole will help in and save me. Help in and save me. So welcome to the DNA Decoded live Q&A call this month. We're going to be talking about lactose today. So I hope you have all your dairy questions. If you have your reports, you can pull them up to see what color dot that you are as we're going through and talking about dairy. So just some disclaimers. This is for informational and educational purposes only. This is not intended to diagnose, cure, etc. You can read this through on your own. I can send it to you if you'd like to read further. So if you haven't met Dr. Sam, he is our incredible functional medicine doctor. He has a lot of experience working with clients and also a lot of experience with his own health journey. So he brings a wealth of information, and we're always super grateful for everything that he has to share with us, as well as his precious time. So thank you for being here today, Dr. Sam, per usual. My name is Crystal. I've been a health coach for over 10 years now. I'm a soccer mom. That's why I'm in a cafe right now. I'm actually outside of a New England Revolution stadium where they're going to be playing World Cup game tomorrow, and my son is doing an elite training camp there. So it's about 2 hours from the house. So this is where we are today. I'm also a Connecticut homesteader. So I put the sheep out this morning into the field before I made the trek over here. And I love staying active and gardening. And I'm also a Navy spouse. My husband is retired military, but we did many deployments, and we're on the road for about 12 years before we settled here in Connecticut. A little bit about me. If you have any issues with DNA Decoded, any issues with logging in or reading your report, you can always message me at support@drsamshay.com. So let's talk about the supplement of the month. We are highlighting Digestimes. So Digestimes is an awesome digestive enzyme formula that has the enzyme in it to help break down dairy, as well as gluten and some other things. So I wanted to highlight this today. It also has HCl, hydrochloric acid, which helps with improving stomach acid and breaking down protein. So this is really great, especially if you are vegan or vegetarian, you don't eat a lot of protein, you probably have lower HCl. So the Digestimes are a really great formula if you struggle with like bloating or constipation or anything like that. Always get genetics, always use the code genetics15 to get your discount when you're purchasing these professional grade designs for health supplements, which are the ones that we recommend. If you go to your quick wins slide in your report, you'll see you have the top 5 prioritized as far as supplements. So sulforaphane is the Broncho Protect, and then we have SOD inducer, omega-3s, vitamin D3, and histamine nutrients. If you have any questions about supplements at any point, just again, reach out to me at support@drsamshay.com. We can even jump on a free call and go over your supplement regimen and make sure that you're on the right track. So I wanted to just take a minute to talk about
the Crystal. DNA.
Yeah.
Just real quick, for that supplement, what website are we going to order? Is it designsforhealth.com?
Yes, so it is Designs for Health, but it's Dr. Sam's Designs for Health. Yeah. So if you want to drop your link in the chat, Dr. Sam.
Yeah, so it's a slightly different link. It's
and you have to use this specific link in order to get your 15% off discount. So you definitely want to make sure you're using this link that Dr. Sam's going to pop in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, it's just designsforhealth.com/u/Sam Shay, SHAY, SAMSHAY. The reason why is that it's Designs for Health has, thousands and thousands of practitioners. So, but each practitioner has its own different portal, and to access my discounts, it has to be through my specific portal.
Yes.
Would you state that one more time, please?
You just click on the link, and then you can use the code genetics 15 for 15% off. It won't work for the regular just designsforhealth.com. It has to be the designsforhealth.com/u as in user/Sam Shay.
And that link is in the chat if you go to the chat in Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. I wanted to highlight the DNA Decoded library because I want to make sure that you know where to go to find more information, because there's a wealth of information inside of your portal. If you go again to the chat, you're going to see I put the link in there for DNA Decoded login. This is your membership area. If you have any issues with logging in, just let me know. Again, it's support@drsamshay.com. Just send me an email. But once you log in there, you'll see all the recordings for these calls. You'll see the library, the DNA Decoded library, which is where you go after you get your report so that you can go to the corresponding videos for your dot color. So if you are green and lactose, you would go to the green dot video, and Dr. Sam will break it down even further for you. And this is true for all of the different genes. There are well over 100 videos in there for you to explore. So I just want to make sure you know where that is. Again, if you have
Hey,
any questions,
Crystal.
just let me. Yeah.
Dawson's saying, please resend links. Can you put the link to the portal in the chat, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
It says Fit Genes USA. If you click on that, it will open up to your membership page. Can you see my screen? It looks like this.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Here. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about lactose. I personally have a green dot in lactose. I'd love to know what all of you have. But just because you have a green dot in lactose, and Dr. Samuel talked about this, it doesn't mean that you are not sensitive to something else in dairy. So I will let Dr. Sam take over now, and he's going to pull up the genetic blueprint and go through all of his information about lactose and dairy. And if you want to take this opportunity to pull up your report, then you can follow
You
along
can just
as
keep
well.
this. You can actually just keep this slide up because there's not. It's.
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to show you this slide anyway.
Oh, perfect.
Actually, this
And Sam,
is.
Dr. Sam, can
Yeah.
you please explain what the green, yellow, and red mean for this? Because I'm a green as well, and so it seems like it would be a good thing, but perhaps it's not. So if you
Yeah.
could explain that.
Actually, Chris, I'll take back what I said. Yeah, if you can unshare, because I've actually have an updated slide. That's a slide from the older report.
Sure.
Okay, so let me.
Looks like Nicole has a green. I have a green. Debbie has a red. Gia has a green. Ellie has a green.
Enable
Lots of
screen
green.
sharing,
I have
Crystal.
a bed, but I don't remember how to get, I don't know how to,
Oh, yes. Hold
I
on.
do the stuff on the phone. So I'll just listen.
Okay. Okay. So with lactose, all right, so we'll start with green, yellow, red. So what green means in the case of lactose means that you have at least one, you have an enzyme, you have the gene that makes the enzyme that breaks down milk sugar. So milk sugar is glucose and galactose. And I remember it's glucose and galactose is because the lact in galactose is like lactose. And what happens is that when we're born, we have the gene that makes lactase, which is the enzyme. Anytime you see the word ACE, LASE, that means it's an enzyme that breaks up a thing, and it breaks up its equivalent ose. So lactase breaks up lactose. So lactase is the enzyme, the scissors that cuts up lactose into its two parts, in this case, glucose and galactose, which are two simple sugars. Now, what's interesting is that humans are born with the ability to break down lactose, and the actual genetic issue is not the gene itself that makes the enzyme. It's a regulator gene that actually shuts down the that enzyme's ability to continue to make to let that enzyme be made to break down milk sugar. And the actual what's really funny is that the actual name of the gene it's a mouthful, but there's one word I want to point out. It's lactase fluorescein hydrolase. Now, fluorescein, I don't like the kids these days say Riz. So if you're in genetics, you say, well, fluorescein. There, that's my joke for the day. You're welcome. We're fluorescein, y'all. Uh, so what happens is like you've got this one gene that makes lactose. Then you've got this other gene that after a certain amount of time, like 1 to 2 years, it will then shut down this gene's ability to make the enzyme. Now you may ask, why is it that it's so handy to break down lactose? Why would we have like it's about 60 to 70% of the population worldwide does not have persistence, which is a fancy way of saying they don't have the ability to persistently break down lactose sugar beyond the first year or two. Because wouldn't it be great to be able to break down lactose? Well, the answer is it would, but only if it makes sense for the body to allocate resources to keep making that enzyme. See, every time you code for an enzyme in your gene, your body is taking up the resources to build that thing. Like imagine you're in a city, like snowplows are really handy, particularly if you're in northern latitudes. But imagine you're in the tropics and you just keep making snowplows. It's a total waste of energy, time, and resources. So you would want to shut that down. And if you're in kind of mid or like not quite north latitudes, you'd only want to make a couple snowplows based on the season. But if you're like up really high north, you'd be making snowplows all year round. So so it makes sense that the body would shut down an enzyme that you would no longer need after you stop breastfeeding. But certain populations, like in the Mediterranean, in certain parts of Arabia, and well, there was one other place that persisted. Just looking at my notes here. Additional lactose and African pastoral populations. So there's 3 main places where the lactose gene was able to be continue to be coded for after weaning off of breast milk. And the most common genetic cause of that is this gene variant we're looking at. So when the reasons, so we're looking at why would we continue to be able to why would about 30% of the population or so continue to be able to break down lactose sugar? And for people that are green dots, those are the people that can still create the enzyme to break down lactose sugar. People who are red dots don't have the enzyme to do it. Now, lactose is one of those unusual genes where if you're a green dot here, that means that you're functionally able to break down lactose. It doesn't mean that genetically you are a green dot. So this is an important distinction. Yellow dot means you have one good copy, one bad copy, or one functional copy, one dysfunctional copy. Red dot means you have 2 dysfunctional copies. In the case of the LCT gene, if you have one functional copy, that means you have a copy of your genetic code to make the enzyme, which is sufficient for you to be able to break down lactose. So in this one case, yellow dot genetically means green dot functionally. So practically, what does that mean? That means that you can break down lactose sugar. Now, lactose sugar is in a lot of dairy products. Some products have way more than others. There's a very handy list right here, whey, milk powder, condensed milk, regular milk, chocolate milk, cream, yogurt, etc. All the way down to certain cheeses have very, 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 very little lactose per 100 grams of the dairy product. And what some people find is that even if they're a red dot, but they eat really low lactose-based foods, they're able to tolerate them. Now, one thing that we want to watch out for is that even if you're a green dot here, that's not a blank check to consume as much dairy as you want, because there are other things in dairy, particularly modern dairy, that can be deeply problematic. So one example is that your that you may be able to break down the milk sugar, but you might not be able to break down milk proteins. So there are two other major proteins in dairy that can be really allergenic for people, and that's casein and whey. And for people that can't break down casein or whey, but they have a green dot in lactose, they may be very confused. Like, wait, but I have this green dot, but dairy still messes me up. What's going on? Well, it's these other things, and we can't genetically test for these. We can functionally test for these things by doing like a food intolerance test. But if you're having reactions to dairy, I don't think there's a need to do a food intolerance test. I think you have an intolerance to the dairy. Other things to be clear on is to be honest with yourself. Like if you consume dairy, even with a green dot, and you feel tired, bloated, gassy, etc., then maybe that dairy is not a good thing for you. For me, dairy just makes me exhausted, like it's a kryptonite. I was group cooking a whole bunch of meals for a big community that I'm a part of, and they were giving out samples of some of these big pots of soups, and they handed me this kind of strawberry cream soup, this like little shot glass of it to taste it, and all I heard was strawberry. I missed the cream part, and I took a shot of it, and I was like, wow, that tastes really creamy. I wonder if it has a lot of, oh God, no. And like sure enough, within a half hour, like I could not keep my eyes open, and it became kind of a joke that the dairy was my kryptonite. So you've got to look at all the your personal reality around dairy and not be naive or more likely willfully blind to the negative impacts that dairy products can have on you. Some other things to really consider is that modern modern dairy is very different from older dairy. So what dairy used to be was pasture fed and finished animals, and like a third plus of the actual thing of milk was fat. And what happened was that starting around World War One, America had some of the highest quality dairy going for it, simply because like it was a mark of pride and quality of dairy fat and all the rest of it. But then World War One hit, and then suddenly volume of calories mattered because we were going through food rationing for World War One, and then also later on through World War Two. So what happened was a movement in the big agriculture, big dairy, and big pharma and whatnot, was to create longer lasting food products that gave the same texture and visual appeal as their real food counterparts, but were actually nutritionally deficient and in some cases just purely toxic. And so this is where we get highly preserved foods, hydrogenated oils, fake cheeses, fake butters, fake oils, and fake cheeses, soybean oil converted into something that looks like cheese. And with that, with the dairy industry itself, this emphasis shifted from quality of dairy fat to volume of dairy liquid. So meaning that it was more important to create and breed cows and inject cows with all sorts of strange chemicals to make them piss out. It's the wrong word, but milk out. I mean, Crystal, help me. What's the proper word here? You raise animals. What's when you're milking udders? You're not. What's the term?
I honestly don't know because I haven't milked my sheep yet. They're not milked sheep.
Okay, got it. Never mind. All right, I'm sorry to be so presumptuous. Okay, uh, so what you're getting,
you express.
express them. Okay, so when you're expressive, they're so expressive. Look at that. Uh, so when these dairy animals are being expressed, it sounds like they're going to an improv troupe. When they're being expressed, it's not like 1 gallon of milk and of which a third to a half of it is dairy fat. It's now like 4 to 5 gallons of milk. Most of it is water. And you've got really sad farm lives, big factory lives for these animals where these cows' udders are packed so much with milk, like they have to be milked every day or they're gonna like get really injured. Like, and this is where the vegan movement is 100% correct on the inhumanity and cruelty of the large scale dairy industry. Like it is cruel. And where the milk that I'm talking about is like small pasture fed, finished, properly husbanded cattle where it's just, half acre to a couple acres, generational farm stuff. Like that's great because cows are basically rainforests on 4 legs if you raise them properly. And they can actually regenerate the land because they're just a walking, fertilizing rainforest. And that's the very first quarter cow I ordered back in 2002, I think, when I was running an organic kitchen co-op. I ordered it from the Morris family in California. Dr. Morris, the patriarch of the farm, he has a PhD in farming or something, but he's an absolute uh, maestro of regenerative farm. And he in California, because he has videos where he says no shocks, there's no cattle prods, he's like, this is how you move a cow. And like there's a cow chewing its cud, and there's Dr. Morris, and he takes a step towards the cow, and the cow stops chewing, stops eating, looks up, looks at Dr. Morris, and like takes one step away from him. And then Mr. Morris then takes another step towards him, and then the cow like looks at him, looks at the grass, looks back at him, and takes another step away. And Dr. Morris like, this is how you move a cow. You don't need to prod him with anything. So, and Dr. Morris's farm has had extremely rare, thought to be extinct trees began to grow again on his farm because the soil is so rich, these dormant seeds that have been just waiting in for the right circumstances have now started to grow again. In fact, in the Great Plains, the bison herds and everything else, like they would come into a valley and just basically trample piss and poop over the entire valley and basically drown the whole valley in nutrients and water and mix and till the soil and leave. And then the valley just suddenly got its its entire next set of generations of growth from that. So the idea that cattle can be a net or ruminants are just a net always negative on the environment is a categorical lie, unless it's factory farming. So it's like it's when I gave a lecture to 400 people years ago, ending the food war, finding peace and common ground between vegans and paleos. At the end of the talk, like I was like, okay, for the meat eaters, your job is to deal with the horrors of the modern meat industry. And for the vegans, your job is to deal with the horrors of the GMO industry. And then we can work together. Then we actually are working on the same side here. And the dairy industry is like somehow in the middle of that intersection, because it's not cutting up the animals for meat, at least while they're still milking, but it's not, there's still a lot of cruelty that goes on in the large industrial milk production facilities. Now, I also know, when I lived in Hamilton, New Zealand. Hamilton, New Zealand is the center of the dairy industry of New Zealand. Now, for those of you that don't know, the dairy industry comprises, depending, I have to look up the recent stats, but when I was there, it was like 14% of the GDP. Dairy was the biggest single industry in New Zealand, and the next nearest ones were like fruit, timber, tourism, and like wool. So dairy is like the biggest industry in New Zealand, and the major dairy plant, Fonterra, is in Hamilton. And you can see the giant, like whatever 6-story funnel, basically, for lack of a better term, where they just take all the dairy and then convert it into their various products. Now, one of my patients was, more than one of my patients actually, there worked at the factory, and they told me privately, never ever eat Fonterra products. They're so toxic, because the amount of chemicals that has to be run through all the piping and the everything to keep the thing sterile, uh, to avoid like listeria and other weird infections, is just terrifying. So, there are major problems with the commercial dairy industry. And going back to what we were talking about before, one of the main problems is that it's not as nutritious as it was. It's mostly water and milk sugar, and a little bit of, and some protein and chemicals. It's no longer the fat. The fat is the most nutritious part of the dairy. And you can go, I mean, if you go to a farmer's market or you have a cow share or something and you look at what a liter of dairy looks like, you'll notice the cap of fat in a old school version, old school farmer one. It's literally like 1/3 to 1/2 fat. But then you go to any store, it's like maybe 1 to 2%, if that, or it's low fat. So the quality of the dairy today is nothing like what it was 100 years ago, and especially longer. Additionally, um, there's a lot more chemicals that are in the air that are now in the soil, and all these other things that can get into the milk. And then if the cow is eating GMO corn or things with pesticides and insecticides, then all of that stuff can get into the dairy as well. So, modern dairy, if people are having reactions to dairy today, they might have been fine if they had simply done the smart thing and be born over 100 years ago. I mean, it's very silly of people to be born into modern day. Like, that was quite not the best move. So when it comes to dairy, so the um yeah, so now the other thing that you may be wondering about is like, well, what about raw dairy? Isn't that dangerous? And then so then the same question would be, is like, well, we in the States, you have to buy your eggs refrigerated, because aren't unrefrigerated eggs dangerous? And the answer is, really terribly taking care of animals in poorly unhygienic conditions may require pasteurization or ultrapasteurization to kill any hidden microbes that were only there because of the crappy conditions in which they were raised in the first place. You go to Europe, they don't refrigerate their eggs. People have been to Europe, like Nicole, you've been to Europe how many times? They don't refrigerate their eggs over there, right? No. You can just go to a store, there's no refrigeration section for the eggs.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
refrigerate my eggs.
yeah. So so when you go to so raw milk is available in so many parts of the world. Now, what causes the problems with raw milk is if you have unhygienic practices like that are practiced at large scale dairy, and then you have the risk of raw milk becoming a petri dish. Now, what's scary here is that in the name of public health, always like literally there are videos online you can watch this where the feds raid a raw dairy farm in California, guns drawn. This is video online. You can watch this is your tax dollars at work raiding a raw milk farm, guns drawn, pointing at the farmers as they have to pour their raw milk down the drain. Meanwhile, there's plenty of liquor shops and cigarettes for sale within however many miles radius. Like, so you have to think of like, why is that? Is this really in the name of public safety? Or is this simply big ag doing a mafioso move and trying to push out the competition? And the intention is to not singularly shut down that dairy farm, but to broadcast to anyone thinking about doing raw milk or anyone else existing doing raw milk that they better watch out. Don't get too big. So I am not sanguine at all about the intentions behind many of the quote unquote safety regulations that are out there, because most of the safety regulations, as far as I can tell, were designed by and for big dairy in order to protect themselves and give excuses to shut down any competition, and also price out compliance through high compliance costs, smaller dairy farms. So all in the name of it's for your own good. We're trying to protect you, guns drawn on small farmers who are just doing the crime of doing raw milk. I remember when I was in college, I would buy raw butter and raw milk under the table from the Strauss farm. This was 25 years ago, literally 25 years ago. I would literally have to pay under the table for raw butter. And it was like I was committing a crime by having this little jug of bright orange butter, like look at me and my criminal enterprise. And I'll never forget that. And that was quite a formative moment in my understanding of how the real world worked. And that you have to act sometimes under the table in order to try to achieve optimal health. At the time, I didn't know my genetics, and I was reactive to the casein and the whey in the butter. But I was trying to convince myself that, look, it's raw organic dairy. It's still good for me. Like I'll tell you right now, I can't do any dairy except purified ghee, which is pure butter fat. There's no protein. There's no milk sugar in it whatsoever. I am highly reactive to things in dairy other than the pure fat. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's 100% organic, pasture fed, and the cows were sung to and massaged on Thursdays, before they were expressed. It doesn't matter. I can't do dairy except pure butterfat. And I am, if I don't know if you recall from that slide that Crystal put up originally, that was the original slide I had. And on the right side wasn't this chart, but was a thing that says, I miss cheese too. I'm super sad. Like it was this kind of like therapeutically mopey thing about like, look at me, Dr. Shay. I can't do dairy. Let's mourn together. Let's sing a song and do a little Viking funeral and a piece of cheddar, and then that's it. So I cannot do dairy as much. And I grew up on Vermont cheddar. Like that's some high quality stuff, like a little thing wrapped in like different colored waxes and stuff. Like Vermont cheddar is A plus cheddar. And I miss it, even though it caused me terrible digestive problems. So
I grew up right next to the Cabot factory in Vermont.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was one
Okay.
of my class trips to go through and do a tour. Pretty cool.
Fascinating. Oh yeah, well, for my high school chemistry class, we visited the Budweiser factory. We got to see the Clydesdales that were in the commercials.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they were terrifyingly large.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they're big.
they are enormous animals. Like you could invade a small country on those things. Like it is. Anyway, so that's quite good. Where were we? Dairy. All right. We went from cheese to beer to horses to medieval conquest. All right, that makes total sense. So let's talk about some alternatives to dairy. So there are coconut and cashew-based dairy products out there. Now, not those don't automatically mean they're good for you, especially genetically if you're sensitive to histamine, because there's histamine in those kind of coconut and cashew-based products. I've tried coconut yogurt. It makes me gassy AF. Like I can't do coconut yogurt. It makes me so gassy. And it's the same thing. So just be honest with yourself. There are so in terms of and there are also like a lot of really low quality junk vegetable oil based dairy alternatives. There are two real exceptions that I found. So like the non-dairy dairy industry has really matured its flavor, texture, and quality, especially over the last 5 years or so. They've really got the soft cheese alternatives down through coconut or a cashew based. And they've really got the flavor and texture of butter down. Uh, Two brands, I've no financial relationship with them, but one is like the Natural Grocers buttery spread. It's like all organic, clean oils. It's very impressive. And then the most famous one is Miyoko's. Their butter and some of their other dairy products. Unfortunately, and the butter looks and tastes exactly like butter. It's pretty incredible. Um, However, the non-dairy dairy industry has not nailed the hard cheeses yet. They still feel grainy and kind of weirder texture. I think they need another couple years. And then I am predicting within 5 years, the non-dairy dairy industry will have a complete suite of uh North American classic dairy products. I'm not even going to bother to predict how many decades, possibly centuries, it would take for the non-dairy dairy industry to compete with the erudite selectivity of, say, the cornucopia of French cheeses. Like, I don't think that's a market that the non-dairy dairy industry is going to even bother to break into. So, but however, the America is a dairy culture for sure. So, there's a massive amount of economic opportunity for something that is even 80% close to a Vermont cheddar to be successful. So I give it another 5 years or so.
I have a question.
So yeah.
Question about the non-dairy butter. I've noticed that whenever I look for alternatives for baking, there's so many chemicals in these things with the vegan butters and the non-butters, margarines. Like,
Yeah.
is this Mykonos or the Natural
Yep.
Grocers?
The Natural Grocers one is clean. I ate that before I found a good source of tallow. I am very comfortable with the Natural Grocers organic buttery spread. Unless you're very sensitive to histamine, because it's still there's still maybe some histamine in it. I have sensitivity to histamine, but I'm not a bright red dot in histamine. But Miyoko's is Miyoko. Miyoko's is twice as expensive as Natural Grocers. So when Natural Grocers made, basically Miyoko's was the dominant partner, the dominant product for a couple of years, and then it just took that amount of time for the major brands to create competitors to their best-selling items. So now you see Natural Grocers having, giant tubs of their things. You can now get the equivalent of 4 pounds of their thing in one giant bucket, or maybe 3 pounds, and it's way cheaper than the Miyoko's. Okay, so let's talk about some other things people can do. One is that they can number one is take your intolerances seriously, be honest with yourself. Number two, don't think that you're a green dot, that everything is fine. You may be reactive to casein or whey. Number 3, quality matters. We had a whole TED talk today on the problems of not inorganic dairy. Volume matters. So how much quantity you take also matters. Modern dairy is not like the dairy used to be. So if you're going to find dairy, try to find an older pasture-fed finished cattle local farm. You may have to buy like air quotes shares, and so you can legally there's legal ways to get around raw dairy restrictions based on the state. Like you can, if you own a portion of the cow, then legally you are allowed to drink raw milk out of your own cow. So if you are buying milk from your own cow, you are allowed to drink that raw milk from your own cow. So there's, if you're needing resources on how to do raw dairy, you can go to westonaprice.org. And I think they have a thing on dairy. What's up? You just go there and click, I'll put it in the chat. You just go to your local, it says find your local chapter, and that you'll be able to ask where to, you'll be able to find out where you can get raw dairy, westonaprice.org. And then other things you can do is get enzymes like digestions that have, I believe, have lactase in them. And then you can look at dairy-free options. You can just simply take, you can take reduced lactose foods like you see on that chart to the right. And you can also grieve. You just can't do dairy like me. That's the final option. All right. Any questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
I have a green dot in lactose, but
Mhm.
my food sensitivities show that cow's milk is a sensitivity, but I
Mhm.
can have sheep and goat milk.
Yeah.
So can you speak to the green dot in genetics versus a food sensitivity where they say stay away from cow's milk? And I do like looking at this red, yellow, and green list here on the screen. Like the ones in the yellow and red definitely affect me. I can have a little bit of the ones in green. So
Mhm.
it's interesting the difference between the reporting.
Mhm. Okay. So when you have a green dot, but then cow dairy products are not based on lab testing, are not a good idea, but sheep and goat are fine. What they're talking about are the genetics here is testing for the milk sugar, lactose. The food intolerances are checking for the milk proteins, casein and whey, and cow proteins in the cow milk. The dairy proteins in cow milk are of a slightly different shape and type to those in goat or sheep. So your body is having an immune response to the proteins. And so the immune response, your body sends out shape-seeking missiles, not heat-seeking missiles. They send out shape-seeking missiles to attack whatever proteins they think are dangerous in your system. And the enough that the body's immune system will mobilize to attack the milk proteins from cows, but not the milk proteins from goats or sheep. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. What other questions do people have?
Is that why a lot of times when mothers don't breastfeed and they choose to do a formula, it's better to do the sheep milk formula for babies?
It depends on, I'd say as a general rule, sheep milk is likely to be a lot less allergenic simply because the amount of massively changed dairy cattle has been so prevalent. It's probably hard to find an heirloom dairy cattle within driving distance to support your kid. So are there enzymes that break down casein or whey proteins for if you're having trouble breaking down those things? That's a great question. Now, generally speaking, you have what are called proteases. You have stomach acid in your stomach, and then you have proteases, things that break down protein from your pancreas. So stomach acid and the stomach acid would be if you don't have good enough stomach acid, you may have a problem breaking down those proteins, or frankly, any proteins. Then there's other enzymes. If you look at things like pepsin, trypsin, chymotrypsin, and then there's other enzymes in your gut lining. So there's enzymes that are called brush border enzymes. They line the cells of the intestine. So if you have a leaky gut, you're not going to have all the enzymes available to break down those amino acid chains from dairy. You'll find some enzymes out there. One's called DPP-IV. It stands for dipeptidopeptidase 4. Those can help break down stomach acid. Break down dairy proteins. There's some specific supplements out there that can focus on just kind of dairy in general, but they're not very common. So the things that you can do right away is to improve your stomach acid, your digestion in general, and help deal with any leaky gut if you have it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So my one request, so a question of any so any thoughts on treating leaky gut? So for that, you would want to get you'd want to do a functional gut test to see what's the causes of leaky gut, because it could be there's three major causes of leaky gut. One is an infection dysbiosis, meaning you've got hidden infections creating havoc and destroying the place. You can have a deficiency dysbiosis, is when you're missing your good neighbors and you're missing huge swaths of your beneficial bacteria. It's kind of like broken windows neighborhood policy. Like if you've got a half vacant neighborhood, it's leaky. Like it doesn't, like the neighborhood breaks down. All you have to do is just go to St. Louis, and like there's entire sections of the city which are basically abandoned. And the third is a digestive dysbiosis, where you have a lot of problems with your pancreas, your gallbladder, or you got inflammation markers, or issues with your liver, or whatever it may be that are contributing to your gut, causing leaky gut. So what I'd recommend is getting a gut test and working on what the causes are of leaky gut. Any other questions?
I'll just put the link to a 15-minute discovery call with Dr. Sam in the chat in case anyone wants to talk with him about any additional testing as well. Thanks, Dr. Sam.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna put in the campaign for real milk from Weston A. Price in chat as well. And yeah, they have all sorts of info there. Okay, and until we all see each other again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Thank
Next
you.
month.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.